From tornadoes to flooding, even the occasional snow, spring in St. Louis is a roller coaster. But tonight, News 4 is giving you a glimpse of what you can expect in the coming months. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of News 4 at 6:30, the Spring Weather Outlook. I'm First Alert Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. The First Alert Weather Team is covering all the angles for you tonight. We're taking a look at all you need to know for the season, including the flood outlook, showing you how severe weather alerts happen from start to finish, and monitoring the season's allergy report. And finally, breaking down month by month what you can expect this spring. But first, we're taking a look back at some of the biggest spring weather moments in St. Louis history. Our meteorologist Kent Earhart has that part of the story.
Oh, yep, look at that. Looking more like spring every day. With a couple of notable exceptions, winter was pretty mild around here. In fact, January and February well above normal. Does that mean that it's going to be a warm spring? Not necessarily. I like to think of spring and fall as transition seasons when we're moving into or out of warm or cold air. It is a season that most of us look forward to as we put the cold weather behind us. But it's also a season when just about anything can happen. It's like summer and winter are butting heads over who's in control. For example, the coldest March temperature on record in St. Louis, -5 degrees on March 5th, 1960. But the warmest March temperature was 92 on March 24th in 1929. The coldest temperatures on record in May is 31 degrees on the 10th in 1966 and on the 3rd in 1976. I'm sure you all know we can get some heavy, wet snow in March, like the 12 inches we had back on March 24th in 1913. In fact, last year we had an inch of snow on March 11th. And back on May 4th, 1929, we had 4 inches of snow. Can you imagine? Snow in May. And don't even get me started on rainfall, because spring is notorious for its serious and often deadly flooding. Of course, we all remember the Great Flood of '93, but that was caused by heavy rainfall upstream. The daily spring rainfall record for St. Louis is 5.59 inches back on May 16, 1995, which helped to make May 95 the wettest May on record with almost 13 inches of rain. The normal rainfall from March through May in St. Louis is about 13 inches, and the wettest spring on record was in 1927 with over 23 inches. So in summary, we'll have some hot days, we'll have some cold days. We'll have some dry days, we'll have some wet days, we'll have some windy days, maybe a little snow, maybe not. But one thing is for sure, there will be a lot of pollen.
When spring weather turns dangerous, you get an alert. But from warnings to watches, who determines it's time to make sure you know to take cover? Our meteorologist Leah Hill shows you where those alerts come from start to finish.
Freight train, it was roaring.
At least have our lives.
The major line of destruction.
You could see everything swirling around.
You get the warnings on your phones, through sirens, TVs, and radios. Let's track where they come from. It starts here with Doppler radar scanning the sky, creating images of storms.
I've got an area of rotation.
News 4 is in storm mode.
Just like how the First Alert meteorologists cover severe weather as a team, meteorologists at the National Weather Service work in teams to issue warnings.
There's going to be a primary warning meteorologist, and there's going to be assistant.
At the earliest sign of a severe storm or tornado signature, the button to issue the warning is pressed.
And then I hit send. Go ahead, and the tornado warning is out.
Every second matters.
The whole idea with warnings is to give people advance notice of a storm, whether it's severe thunderstorm or a tornado.
Think of the National Weather Service like a tree, where the meteorologists are the trunk. The branches are the way we receive warnings. Just like how a tree has multiple branches, you too should have multiple ways of receiving warnings in case one fails.
But with that comes great responsibility.
This is a test.
Here's the truth about outdoor warning sirens. As the name implies, they're only meant for those outside.
If you're in your house, you've got the TV on, say the washer and dryer going, there's a lot of noise. You might not hear an outdoor warning siren.
From the National Weather Service.
weather radios will automatically sound the warning for your county. When there's severe weather, what's the first thing you do? You turn on the TV to catch our first alert weather report. If the power goes out, you can still keep up with the latest weather information through our app. The warnings for severe weather are automatically triggered. There are also wireless emergency alerts. They only go off for certain circumstances. For example, if you're in a tornado warning or if there is a destructive thunderstorm.
The severe thunderstorm warnings that will set off the wireless emergency alerts are going to be what we call the destructive ones for wind, which is 80 miles an hour or greater, or for baseball size hail, which is 2 3/4 of an inch and larger. You can also access live streaming coverage, our forecast videos, and current radar data. When you see the warning,
You should take action.
Leah Hill, News 4.
From Grafton to Arnold, Herman to St. Charles County, springtime river flooding is part of life for many local communities. Some years, though, are much worse than others. And First Alert meteorologist Matt Chambers is diving into this spring's flood outlook and pulling back the curtain to show us how those forecasts are created.
The Gateway Arch and the Grand Staircase, an unforgettable St. Louis scene. But also scorched into our memories, the Great Flood of '93, when the mighty Mississippi itself climbed more than half of these stairs to the highest level ever recorded in St. Louis. Standing on this very spot back in 1993, I would have been underwater, deep underwater. In fact, based on where the river stands today, it would have taken 8 mats stacked one on top of another before I just barely breached the surface of the river. But what is the likelihood of river flooding this spring? I stopped by our local National Weather Service office to experience firsthand how they develop their spring flood outlook.
It's all probability based, right?
Mark Fuchs is a hydrologist. With the help of complex computer models, he uses river levels, drought conditions, all kinds of current data to determine how likely river flooding is this spring. But the most critical factor might surprise you.
How much snowpack is on the ground in the upper ends of the Missouri and the Mississippi Basin, and how much water is actually in that snowpack. Because if that snowpack is light, it almost doesn't matter how high the river starts out at. There's not much of a loaded gun up north in the upper end of the Mississippi or the middle part of the Missouri to make much of a difference.
And right now, that gun just doesn't seem to be loaded, which is just one of the factors that makes river flooding less likely this spring.
We're coming out of a winter, Matt, where we actually got to all-time record lows on the Missouri River. And yeah, it's going to take a lot of rain to get it, up to near normal. And then, if we're talking floods beyond that, it's going to take even that much more.
Spring is our wettest season of the year on average, but still the amounts can vary a lot. Take this for example. This is our average spring rainfall, a little more than a foot. That's about 13 inches. But the driest spring ever recorded in St. Louis, less than 4 inches, believe it or not. Contrast that with the wettest spring on record, almost 2 feet of rain. This is 23 inches of water. The problem is, what happens when you get almost an entire spring's worth of rain in less than 24 hours? It happened just last July.
News 4 is in storm mode.
As we look at this, you guys, doesn't this just look like rivers next to each other?
Surreal.
3 of them.
On July 26th, historic flash flooding absolutely pummeled St. Louis City and County, along with parts of St. Charles County. Roads were closed, vehicles submerged, Metrolink stations underwater. 2 people lost their lives.
Those are the greater risk to life. We have more loss of life due to flash flooding than we do from river flooding.
But swollen rivers can make flash flooding worse. So how are we looking this spring? Bottom line, it sounds to me like no strong signals for any moderate to major flooding on a prolonged basis.
That is correct, Matt.
And again, we in the weather business know things don't always go according to plan.
Don't discount what isn't likely, because it could happen as well.
Unlikely does not mean impossible.
Exactly.
After Matt put that story together for us, heavy snow fell across the upper Mississippi River Basin. So we reached out to the National Weather Service to see if that change their outlook? And the answer is yes. That deeper snowpack to our north, along with recent rainfall here, has made moderate flooding likely along the Mississippi River from Grafton to the north, with minor flooding likely elsewhere, even along the river downtown. Still ahead on our spring weather outlook, I'll break down month by month the rainfall compared to normal for the spring. And after the break, all the ways the First Alert Weather Team alerts you. From here on air to the app, a behind-the-scenes look at what we do to help you keep your family safe. Before we go to break, we have some weather trivia for you. We're asking, true or false, can most tornadoes lift the roof off of a home? The answer and explanation next.
3, 2, 1, here's the open.
From KMOV Channel 4, this is your First Alert Weather Ride Home Forecast.
Hello, Blues fans. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Tempe!
Ride Home Forecast. When you're headed out of Enterprise Center, hopefully where the Blues win. Enjoy the game and let's go Blues!
Love me some Tempe.
Wait.
Tempe?
Hey, I bleed blue.
Attaboy, Temp.
Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you true or false, most tornadoes can lift the roof off of a home. It's false. The vast majority of tornadoes are weak. In fact, 80% cause low-end EF0 to EF1 damage. And the stronger tornadoes that can lift a roof off occur much less frequently. And then the strongest EF4 or EF5 tornadoes combine for a rare 1% of all tornadoes. Now, while rare, we know violent tornadoes can happen. So we don't want you scared. We want you prepared. And that brings us to a look at how we get you ready for severe weather. For a First Alert Weather Day.
For the latest details on that First Alert Weather Day.
But a First Alert Weather Day.
First Alert Weather Day for Friday morning.
You know us as the First Alert Weather Team. But what does First Alert really mean for you? It's not just a slogan for marketing. We truly want to make sure you are alert, prepared, and safe. And there's many ways we first alert you to big impact weather. First, you'll hear and see us declare a First Alert Weather Day on air, online, and on social media. This is where we give you advance notice to weather that could have a significant impact on you and your family. However we can reach you, we will. We don't want you scared, but we do want you prepared. When it comes to severe weather, you'll see us use maps like this. They show you the severe risk on a scale of 1 being the lowest to 5 being the highest. These maps are generated by the Storm Prediction Center out of Norman, Oklahoma. They're a branch of the National Weather Service, helping us monitor and alert to severe threats. This is advance notice, well ahead of when storms develop, and the First Alert Weather Team will make sure you know our detailed forecast for timing and threats. When severe storms are about to fire up, we may get a severe storm watch or tornado watch. A watch means to stay extra alert. The ingredients to create severe weather are coming together. Now, watches are large and last for several hours. Warnings, however, are different. They cover a much smaller area and are a short duration of 45 minutes to an hour. The warning means severe weather is happening or detected by radar. And when we have warnings, the First Alert Weather Team is in storm mode, tracking specific storms and timing them out to your neighborhood. So from First Alert Weather Days, giving you advance notice, to storm mode when severe weather is hitting, our goal is to make sure you are alert, prepared, and safe. And still ahead, your spring weather outlook. But first, if you suffer from allergies, we're talking to the experts. Why they say you should already be taking your allergy meds. And before the break, some more weather trivia. A derecho is a real weather phenomenon. But what is it? A type of large tornado? A dust storm? A large, long-lasting, damaging windstorm? Or a large hailstorm? I'll have the answer coming up. You deserve to be first. First to know when you're going to need a little extra protection. Or something to keep you dry. Or extra time in the morning. Or when you need to run for these. Hey, if weather's going to mess up your day,
watch News 4 and you'll be first with First Alert Weather.
First for you.
All day, every day.
First Alert Weather.
Steve Templeton and the First Alert Weather Team.
Yeah, we're watching out for you. Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you, what is a derecho? A derecho is a term for a large, long-lasting windstorm. These lines of storms have damaging winds of 60 to 100 miles per hour, can also produce tornadoes along the path, and last for hours, traveling over 400 miles. Derecho is a Spanish term meaning straight ahead or direct. which refers to the destructive straight-line winds like what you see here from Cedar Rapids, Iowa in 2020. There's a lot we don't understand about derechos, which makes forecasting exactly where and when they form a big challenge. If you suffer from allergies, spring may not be your favorite season. We're looking at the main causes expected this year and when experts say you should start taking your meds. Our First Alert meteorologist Kristen Cornett has the details.
The trees are starting to bud out a little earlier, grasses are starting to green up a little bit earlier.
But is the spring allergy season getting worse?
I think it's maybe getting a little longer, more than necessarily worse.
Dr. Ann Hennessy used to tell spring allergy sufferers to start their medicine around St. Patrick's Day or spring break.
But now I think, people might need to start taking some of their allergy medicines. Maybe we start saying Valentine's Day.
When we talk about spring allergies, trees are the primary culprit. And while pollen counts are constantly changing due to the weather, there is a part of the season that tends to be worse.
Sometimes people have worse symptoms, maybe a little closer to May when we have all that green dust on all the cars.
So how can you battle spring allergies?
I like Zyrtec. I think it's a little stronger than Claritin. For certainly people who are going to be out and about, going out and playing spring sports, going for jogs, or just taking their dog for a walk, they might want to take that every day.
Dr. Hennessy says a nasal spray like Flonase really helps with itchy eyes.
For the nasal steroids to give you the most benefit of your spending your money on that is you should take that every single day.
When can a spring allergy sufferer stop taking medicine?
If you just have tree allergies, most of the time those people can come off their medicine by summer and don't need medicine again until the next, late winter.
In Creve Coeur, Kristen Cornett, News 4.
Spring is our most active season, and it can take us on wild rides from heavy snow to tornadoes, monster hail, and severe flooding. Now, March averages 2.3 inches of snow, April 0.2 of an inch, and while rare, we know it can snow on Easter, like in 2018. Now, May averages no snow, though our latest measurable snow on record is May 2nd, 1929, with 4 inches in May. Now, while the chances of snow go down, the odds for tornadoes goes up. The spring months of March, April, and May are by far the most prolific tornado-producing months of the year in our region. Now, historically, on average, 54% of all tornadoes in our area occur in the spring months. Now, the science isn't good enough to predict tornado outbreaks weeks or months ahead of time, but we can look at the spring weather outlook, comparing temperatures and precipitation to normal. Now, March last year was wet and warm. In fact, we hit a record 82 on March 2nd last year. This year, I expect March overall to be colder than normal. We're entering into a chilly period of weather for the next couple of weeks, and we've already had almost 2 inches of rainfall, which puts us on a path for a wetter than normal March. I wouldn't rule out some hits of light snow or dusting later in the month as well. April's trend last year was slightly cool and drier than normal. I expect this April to be warmer than normal, and perhaps much warmer as the temperature pattern changes. It also looks drier than normal. But keep in mind, April is our second wettest month, so drier than normal can still make for some wet days and stormy times. Now, May trended hot last year. In fact, when we hit 94 on May 11th, it was the first time on record we've been that hot that early in the year. I don't expect that this May, but instead, temperatures slightly warmer than normal overall. However, the wet spring trend continues, as once again, I expect another month with above normal rainfall. Now, overall, I expect spring 2023 warmer and wetter than normal. We will no doubt go through some threats of severe weather, and we will be working hard right here in the First Alert Weather Center to pin down those week-to-week threats, making sure you always get the First Alert. And before we head to break, we have another weather trivia question for you. Extremely large grapefruit-sized hail can fall at the speed of 50, 70, 90, or even 100 miles per hour. I'll have the answer after the break.
Corey, one of my favorite things about St. Louis is that each neighborhood has its own feel, it has its own flavor. This spot happens to be one of my favorite in St. Louis. Let's get inside and we'll get a little taste of my St. Louis.
Well, you come in and it's just people from all walks of life, college students, their families. I think one of my favorite things about St. Louis is it's a good melting pot, and being able to find, no matter where you're from, somewhere that tastes like home. It gives you a space in St. Louis to feel like this is your St. Louis.
Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you how fast can extremely large grapefruit-size hail fall? 50, 70, 90, 100? Yep, 100 miles per hour, according to the National Severe Storm Laboratory. While the speed of hail varies based on the size and the conditions within the storm, very large hail can fall at speeds over 100 miles per hour. Now, smaller hail falls at slower speeds. Golf ball-sized hail, for instance, falls around 25 to 40 miles per hour. With the wild swings in temperatures we typically see in spring, it can be hard to know when to start your gardening for the season. Our First Alert meteorologist Kristen Cornett talked to the experts about when you should start planting.
For St. Louis, our average last frost date is about April 15th. This doesn't guarantee that we will not see frost after that date, so you still have to be a little bit careful.
For your cool season crops,
plant those out in March. That's a lot like your broccoli and your lettuce. Those can withstand a lot of cooler temperatures.
As we get later into the season, focus shifts to our warm season crops. Those are things like tomatoes and peppers.
You can start those indoors about March or April, and then hopefully being planted out late April into May. Since tomatoes are warm season crops, those are very sensitive to cold temperatures, and I know that all of us gardeners would love to put them out. Wait until about May. Roughly Mother's Day is a good time to shoot for. That ensures that we're really past our frost date.
So what if you've planted already and near freezing temperatures are forecast?
If it's your vegetable crops, you can protect them using a frost cloth or even a sheet. Also, it helps to water your plants in the ground before the freeze. Wet soil actually holds heat better than dry soil, so that will help get your newly planted plants through that cold time until things warm up.
Regarding when to take your house plants outside, you'll want to keep an eye on the thermometer.
I would wait until the low temperatures are about 50 degrees consistently.
For additional gardening questions, you can call, visit, or email the Center for Home Gardening at the Missouri Botanical Garden. The phone number is 314-577-5143, or you can email them at plantinformation@mobot.org. In St. Louis, Kristen Cornett, News 4.
That's it for this special edition of News 4 at 6:30. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you download the KMOV weather app to get severe weather alerts for your area as it happens.